I knew something was off the moment I turned onto my street and saw my garage door wide open. That alone would have been enough to raise my blood pressure. I never, ever leave that door open. But it wasn't just that. It was what was inside that made my heart skip a beat. A silver Lexus RX. Sitting there. Parked neatly, confidently, like it belonged there. Like it belonged to me. It sure as hell didn't. It wasn't my mom's, my sister's, or any friend I knew. I'd only been gone for about 10 hours, a quick day trip to install a new server rack at a client's business across the state. And now I come home and someone's just decided my garage is public parking? I stopped the car in the driveway, stunned. At first I thought it might be some delivery driver or an Uber guy who got confused. But this was too perfect. The car was centered like it had been parked deliberately, with time and care. And worse, there was a half-empty iced latte sitting on the hood. Still sweating. Someone had been here very recently. I left my car idling and walked straight toward the garage. The Lexus was locked. No note, no emergency blinkers, nothing. It just sat there like a smug houseguest who didn't even bother to ask. A sinking suspicion settled in my stomach. I glanced across the street, and that's when she appeared. Trish, Lambert. Wearing oversized sunglasses, a designer workout set, and an air of entitlement so thick it might as well have been perfume, she stepped out of her front door like she'd been waiting for me. Not a hint of guilt on her face. "You're home early," she said, sipping what I assumed was her second iced coffee of the day. I stared at her. "Is that your car?" She didn't flinch. "Yes." No shame. No explanation. I'm sorry, what? I parked it there. Your driveway's too sloped for my suspension," she said like it was the most normal thing in the world. "And your garage was empty. I figured, why not?" I blinked, genuinely wondering if I'd fallen into some bizarre social experiment. "You figured, why not?" I echoed. Trish gave me a casual shrug, like she was talking about borrowing someone's ketchup. "Trish, this is my private garage. You can't just park there." She rolled her eyes. "Marcus, let's not be dramatic. It's just a garage. I was in a hurry." I took a deep breath, trying not to explode. I dealt with difficult clients. I'd mediated tech disputes worth thousands. But this was next level. And deep down, I knew one thing for sure. She had no idea who she was messing with. I was still standing there, trying to process how completely unbothered Trish was by the fact that she'd invaded my property, when she leaned one hip lazily against her porch railing and said, "Besides, I figured it'd only be for a few hours. It's not like you were using it." My jaw clenched. "You figured wrong," I said, walking back to my driveway. "You had no permission to be in my garage, let alone leave your car there." Trish let out an exaggerated sigh, like I was the one inconveniencing her. "Marcus, come on. We all live in the same community. Sharing space is part of being neighborly. Garage space is not a community resource," I snapped. She tilted her head and gave me a fake concerned smile. "You really seem stressed. I know you work with computers or servers or something. Maybe it's burnout." Burnout? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This woman trespassed, parked her luxury SUV in my locked garage, and was now trying to gaslight me like I was overreacting because of tech stress? "No," I said flatly. "I'm just allergic to entitled people who think boundaries don't apply to them." She raised her iced coffee like a toast. "Well, lucky for you, I'm moving it anyway." I felt a tiny sliver of relief, until she added, "Eventually." I stared at her. "Eventually? I've got plans. Brunch with some of the girls. Pilates after that. Then errands. I'll be back later today or maybe tomorrow." "Absolutely not," I said, my voice hardening. "You're moving it now." She scoffed. "You're not using the garage. Look at your car, it's sitting in the driveway. Because you stole the spot in the garage," I snapped. She smirked. "Stole is a strong word. I took a step forward. Trish, if you don't move that car in the next 5 minutes, I'm calling a tow truck. And the police. She waved a hand like she was swatting away a fly. You're being ridiculous. If you call the cops over this, they'll laugh you off the block. Besides, she lowered her sunglasses and met my eyes. I used to be the vice president of the HOA. You really want to play hardball? And there it was. The threat. The smug little power play. The unspoken I know people, and you're just a guy who keeps to himself. I stared at her, eyes narrowing. Trish, I don't care if you're the queen of HOA land. This is trespassing. You don't have the right. She shrugged. But I do have the Lexus. With that, she turned her back to me and walked into her house. She didn't just ignore me, she dismissed me. That quiet click of her door shutting in my face did something to me. It was like a switch flipped. She thought she was above consequences. She thought I'd just mutter to myself, maybe post a passive-aggressive HOA complaint online, and move on. She had no clue that I wasn't the kind of neighbor to play nice when you disrespected my boundaries. No, if Trish wanted to park in my garage so badly, she could stay there. The door clicked shut, and I just stood there for a few seconds, staring at it like it might swing open again and Trish would suddenly come to her senses. She didn't. No apology. No movement. No respect. Only arrogance. I walked back to my driveway, took a long look at the Lexus still lounging in my garage like it paid rent, and made a decision. Alright, Trish. Game on. I didn't scream. I didn't knock again. I didn't even look back. Instead, I walked into my house, grabbed the second garage remote from my kitchen drawer, and opened the garage from the inside. I stood at the threshold, took one final glance at the polished silver hood of her overpriced toy, and pressed the remote. The door slid shut with the slow, mechanical satisfaction of a guillotine blade. Then I crossed to the interior access door, engaged the deadbolt, and for good measure, slid the security latch across. That garage was now locked from both sides. The next part was easy. I had already been planning a short work trip, 3 days of client visits, 2 days of solitude at a quiet lakefront Airbnb 2 towns over. I hadn't been planning to leave until next week, but what better time than now? If the universe delivers you an opportunity to teach someone a lesson and relax at the same time, why not? I packed light, laptop, chargers, headphones, a couple changes of clothes, and my favorite book of short stories. I set the smart thermostat, closed the blinds, grabbed my travel mug, and stepped outside. Before I left, I took a moment to look at the garage. Sealed tight. Silent. And Trish? Still in her house, blissfully unaware that her world was about to shrink to 4 walls and one regrettable decision. I started my car, queued up a jazz playlist, and pulled out of the driveway with a calm I hadn't felt in weeks. I'll admit, I didn't know she was inside the garage. Not yet. Maybe she'd snuck back in to grab something from her car. Maybe she'd left her phone or that damn latte behind. Maybe she thought she could just come and go as she pleased because that's how she'd lived her life so far, invading, taking, assuming. Whatever the case, I had no clue that by the time I hit the highway, Trish was already locked inside. And I certainly didn't expect that she'd stay there for days. But looking back, I don't regret a single second. Because when someone shows you who they are, their true colors, their total lack of respect, you can either roll over. Or you can teach them what boundaries really mean. If you think Marcus did the right thing, comment 1 below. Trish didn't even realize she was trapped until the second hour. About 30 minutes after slamming the door on Marcus, she had remembered she left her vitamin pack, really, a handful of overpriced supplements, in her glove box. She slipped on her sandals, grabbed her purse, and casually strolled back over to Marcus's garage. No knock. No hesitation. She just walked in like she owned the place. She opened the driver's side door, tossed her purse in the seat, and was halfway rummaging through the center console when she heard it. The low mechanical hum. She turned just in time to see the garage door slowly sliding down, sunlight shrinking by the second until it sealed her, and her car, inside. Click. It was dark. For a moment, she just blinked. Stared at the garage door like it might retract again. Then she jogged over, grabbed the handle, and tugged. Locked. She tried the side door next. Deadbolt. Okay, she muttered. Weird. She pulled out her phone, figuring she'd text Scott to come open it. No signal. One bar, and then none. She waved it around like some kind of suburban antenna, even stepped up onto the bumper of her car. Nothing. Her phone buzzed once. Low battery, 9%. She tapped a text. Hey, I'm stuck in Marcus's garage. Can you come open it? The door closed on me. But the little sending wheel just spun. Then stopped. Message failed. She tried calling. Dead air. The temperature in the garage was already starting to rise, the air stuffy and unmoving. Her silver SUV was sleek, but it didn't provide much shade when parked under a tin roof on a warm spring day. Okay, Trish, she said aloud. Stay calm. He probably didn't realize I was in here. She checked the time, 2:14 p.m. She sat in the car for a few minutes, sipping the rest of her latte and scrolling aimlessly through her photos to kill time. The minutes dragged. Every creak in the walls sounded louder. By 3:30, she was annoyed. By 4:15, she was pissed. She banged on the garage door with her palm. Hello? Marcus. Open the damn door. Nothing. Are you serious right now? I will sue you. Still nothing. That's when it hit her. Marcus wasn't home. He'd packed up and left. She remembered seeing him get into his car. He was gone. She wasn't just locked in. She was alone. As the sun dipped, so did her composure. She searched the car, glove box, center console, under the seats. Her purse yielded some gum, a compact mirror, and a pair of designer sunglasses she couldn't even wear in the dark. No charger. No snacks. She did, however, find a nearly full bottle of cucumber lime sparkling water and 3 butterscotch candies from the bottom of her bag. Dinner. The smell inside the garage shifted slowly from warm to sour. Trish cracked a window on her Lexus, but the air was thick. Her hair started to frizz. Sweat pooled beneath her waistband. Her stomach growled. At 7:10 p.m., she made her first attempt at escape. The doggy door. It was on the far wall, maybe 14 inches wide and just under a foot high. Big enough for Marcus's golden retriever that had passed last winter. Not big enough for a 39-year-old woman with a fondness for boutique cupcakes and bottomless mimosas. Still, she tried. She kicked off her sandals, got down on her stomach, and slithered toward the flap. She wedged her head through, then one shoulder. For a terrifying 10 seconds she was halfway in, halfway out, stuck like a cork in a bottle. She screamed. She kicked. She cried. Then she finally pulled herself back inside, scratched, bruised, and now covered in garage dust. That night she slept in the driver's seat, curled up with her purse like it was a security blanket. Her phone was dead. Her pride was too. Day 2 brought dehydration and desperation. She screamed less and whispered more. Talking to herself? To her iced latte cup, now empty and sticky, which she named Celine. Celine was a good listener. Trish recounted her plans for the week, the brunch she missed, the Pilates session she'd surely be charged for. She ranted about Marcus, how ungrateful he was, how disrespectful, how he didn't understand how stressful her life was. How dare he trap her like this? But she knew. Deep down she knew. This wasn't Marcus's fault. This was hers. She'd pushed the boundary. Smirked at him. Walked away like she was untouchable. And now? She was locked in a metal box with nothing but stale air and regret. As night 2 crept in, she curled up again in the car, whispering to Celine, praying someone would notice. But no one came. Because no one missed her. Not yet. By the morning of day 3, Trish had gone through all 5 stages of grief, twice. She was now in the 6th stage, full-blown madness. Celine, the now bone-dry iced latte cup, had been promoted from companion to therapist. Trish cradled it in the passenger seat like a pet, whispering her morning affirmations into its straw hole. "You're not stuck," she murmured, her voice hoarse. "You're temporarily inconvenienced." Then she laughed. Just a little. Then more. Then she stopped, eyes wide. "I need to get out." She had tried everything she could think of. On day 1, she'd honked the horn until the Lexus battery died. On day 2, she screamed herself hoarse. Now, on day 3, she was planning her escape like a convict, only less prepared and much more hungry. First, she searched every inch of the SUV. The glove box yielded a crumpled receipt and a dog-eared pamphlet for a yoga retreat she never attended. Under the seat? One sandal she thought she lost in 2022 and a plastic fork. Score. She checked the trunk next. Jackpot. A half-eaten protein bar, an emergency umbrella, and 3 water bottles from a forgotten Costco haul. One of them had leaked and reeked of mildew, but the other 2? Liquid gold. She drank slowly, carefully, savoring every warm sip as if it were champagne. By midday, her stomach was cramping from hunger, but she didn't dare touch the protein bar all at once. She broke it into tiny pieces and rationed it like a soldier in a bunker. When she wasn't eating, she was pacing. 10 steps forward, 10 steps back. The garage felt smaller each time. By the end of the day, the walls seemed to lean inward, like they were tired of her too. That night, she tried the doggy door again. This time, she removed her jacket, tied her hair back, and smeared lotion on her arms to slide in better. The result? She got stuck worse than before. Half her body was hanging outside, legs flailing inside the garage like a malfunctioning inflatable tube man. For one horrifying moment, she thought she might suffocate between the wall studs. And then, of course, Mrs. Moreno walked by. The 74-year-old woman, power walking in neon sneakers and massive noise-canceling headphones, glanced right at Trish's lower half and kept walking. "You have to be kidding me." Trish screamed after her, face turning purple from blood rushing down. After 20 minutes of wriggling and muttered curses, she yanked herself back in, collapsing in a heap beside the recycling bin. Her dignity was gone. Her designer yoga pants were torn. Her knees were scraped. Her lip was bleeding from biting it during the panic. She crawled back into the SUV, didn't even bother shutting the door, and sobbed herself to sleep. Day 4. Something in her broke. She didn't talk to Celine anymore. She didn't look for food. She just sat in the driver's seat, knees pulled up, staring blankly at the garage door. Her eyes were sunken, makeup long melted into tragic smudges. She imagined how Marcus would react when he returned. Would he laugh? Would he be horrified? Would he, God forbid, have forgotten about her entirely? At one point, she screamed again, not out of hope anyone would hear, but just to feel something. It echoed back at her like mockery. She pulled her dead phone from the cup holder and tried, once more, to turn it on. Nothing. It was a sleek black rectangle of uselessness. She stared at her reflection in the dark screen. Frizzed hair. Wild eyes. Sweat-lined neck. She looked like one of those before pictures on survival shows. "I'm going to kill him," she whispered. And she meant it. In her mind, she had already drafted the lawsuit, the press release, the HOA complaint. She would make Marcus Reed pay. He'd be sorry. They'd take his house. Ruin his job. Make an example out of him. She was Patricia Lambert, for God's sake. No one locks Patricia Lambert in a garage. And yet, as the light dimmed once more, as her stomach whined like a neglected dog, as the silence closed in around her, she began to wonder. What if this was her fault? What if she'd gone too far? No. Impossible. She shook the thought from her head, curled up on the back seat like a child, and whispered a final word into the darkness. Tomorrow. While Trish descended deeper into her garage-shaped purgatory, the world outside just kept spinning. Scott Lambert hadn't noticed anything strange at first. Trish had a habit of vanishing for me time. Brunch with her circle of HOA relics, spa days she never finished, and the occasional I just need to breathe afternoon drive. When she didn't text him for a day, he assumed she was decompressing after another HOA group chat meltdown. By day 3, though, he started to wonder. He opened their shared calendar and saw nothing scheduled. No brunch. No appointments. No Pilates with Dana. He sent her a quick text. You good? No reply. He shrugged and returned to his PS5. Across the street, Mrs. Moreno had noticed something odd. Mostly, it was the silence. Trish hadn't blasted her afternoon mindfulness playlist in days. No incense drifting from her open windows. No condescending, "How are we today, sweetheart?" when Mrs. Moreno walked by. But then again, she figured Trish had left for a mini retreat. Those types do that. She told her cat. No one suspected anything. No one was looking for her. Until Marcus's phone buzzed on the morning of day 4. He was halfway through a second cup of coffee at the lakefront Airbnb, reviewing some minor server diagnostics, when the screen lit up with a message from an unknown number. You locked me in. You psycho. He blinked. A second message came seconds later. Let me out. I've been in here for days. I'm losing my mind. This is illegal. Marcus stared at the screen, confused. Then he saw the sender's name, Trish Lambert, pulled from his backup contact history. And then it hit him. The Lexus. The garage. The possibility that she'd gone back in after he shut the door. He leaned back slowly, a smile creeping across his face despite himself. She told him to be a good neighbor and let her park there. And now? She was begging for mercy through a burner number. He took a long sip of coffee and muttered to himself. 4 bars. Full battery. Perfect weather. He wasn't in a hurry to respond. Was Trish the victim or the villain? Comment yes if she deserved it, no if Marcus went too far. Marcus pulled into his driveway just after noon on day 5, fresh from a peaceful lakeside break, sunglasses on, coffee in hand. As soon as he hit the garage remote, the door began to rise with a low mechanical groan. And then, before it was even halfway open, she exploded out. Trish. Disheveled eyes wild, hair frizzed into chaotic tufts, lips dry and cracked. She looked like she'd clawed her way out of a bunker, and judging by the way she charged him, she just might. You psychopath! She screamed, voice gravelly and broken. You locked me in there. I could have died. Marcus took a slow sip of his coffee. I figured you'd move your car when I asked, he said calmly. Guess that didn't happen. She stomped toward him, trembling with fury, mascara streaked like war paint. This is unlawful imprisonment. I'm calling the cops, and I'm going to own this house by the time I'm done with you. He didn't flinch. Great, Marcus said, pulling his phone from his pocket. Want me to call for you? Or do you want to use mine, since yours is probably dead? She hesitated, just for a second. That's when Marcus walked over to the side of his car, opened the trunk, and pulled out a small black box. Security camera. He held it up, tapped the screen, and watched the color drain from her face. You see, Trish, he said evenly, I installed surveillance around my property 2 months ago. Full coverage. Garage included. He hit play. There she was, on the screen, sauntering up his driveway, hand on hip, waving him off when he told her to move the car. Then her smug little strut back into the garage. No one locked you in, Marcus added. You walked in after I'd already left. Trish opened her mouth, but nothing came out. And these, he continued, pulling up her string of desperate texts, pretty much confirm how long you were inside. So if the police want a timeline, we've got timestamps. She blinked rapidly, her mind spinning. The rage was still there, but now it had been laced with panic. That's when Scott's car pulled up. He got out slowly, confusion on his face. Trish? Babe? You okay? You haven't answered my calls. Trish turned toward him like a broken robot. He did this. She spat. He locked me in there like an animal. Scott looked at Marcus, who held up the camera. She walked into my garage. I left for 5 days. I had no idea she was inside. But now, I've got footage. I've got texts. I've got the full story. Scott looked back at his wife. Why were you even in his garage? Trish blinked. I needed the space. And then, Scott held up a hand. You parked inside someone else's locked garage. Then went back inside without telling him. And now you want to sue? Trish looked down, for the first time in days silent. Marcus crossed his arms. I'm not pressing charges. But I am upgrading my locks. And filing a formal report with HOA, just in case this happens again. Trish scoffed. Like I'd ever park in your garage again. Perfect. Marcus smiled. Glad we're finally on the same page. Scott sighed. Let's just go, Trish. And just like that, the fight drained from her. She turned away, defeated, her barefoot steps echoing off the driveway. But karma wasn't done with her yet. Because just as she reached the passenger side, her phone, magically revived, buzzed with a loud ping. She looked at the screen and froze. HOA notice. Unauthorized use of private property. Community privileges suspended for 12 months. No pool. No gym. No clubhouse. Trish stared at the message, mouth agape. Marcus raised his coffee and gave her a little salute. Welcome back, neighbor. Trish didn't say a word as she climbed into the passenger seat, her face pale and unreadable. Scott started the car without speaking. The silence between them said more than any argument could. Marcus stood at the edge of his driveway, coffee in hand, watching them roll away like storm clouds finally parting. Just before the Lexus turned the corner, Trish glanced back at him through the side mirror. For a moment their eyes met. He didn't gloat. He didn't smirk. He just offered a calm, measured nod, the kind that says, I didn't trap you, you trapped yourself. As the car disappeared, Marcus turned back toward his garage and surveyed the scene. The faint smudge marks on the walls, a half-crushed protein bar wrapper in the corner, and the lingering scent of vanilla-scented meltdown. With a quiet sigh, he walked inside, pulled up the HOA app on his phone, and tapped Confirm on the footage upload. 30 minutes later, a community-wide bulletin went out. Patricia Lambert. Community privileges revoked through April of next year. No pool. No gym. No clubhouse yoga. Marcus smiled. Some people learn by talking. Others need 4 walls and 5 days. Love seeing HOA Karens get what they deserve. Hit that subscribe button for more stories like this. In the end, this wasn't just a story about a woman getting trapped in a garage. It was about boundaries, respect, and the quiet strength of holding your ground. Trish didn't end up in that garage because of bad luck. She ended up there because she believed the rules didn't apply to her. Like so many entitled people, she mistook someone else's kindness and silence as weakness. But Marcus showed us that you don't have to raise your voice to be powerful. Sometimes, the best way to handle disrespect isn't with anger, but with calm action, quiet resolve, and solid proof. This story reminds us that respect is not optional, and actions, no matter how small or harmless they seem, have consequences. It also reminds us that you don't have to play dirty to win. You just have to be smarter, patient, and let the truth do the talking. So next time someone crosses the line, remember Marcus. He didn't yell. He didn't threaten. He just closed the door and let karma do the rest.